My name is Everly Hart. I'm 31 years old. On my wedding day, I found my father standing in a hallway because there was no seat left for him at the table that was supposed to be his. Table 1, front and center. That's where my parents were supposed to sit. Instead, someone had moved them to table 16, the last table in the room, pushed against the wall between the catering station and the fire exit. When I asked my husband to be why, I heard him say 4 words about my father that ended everything I thought I knew about the man I was about to marry. I stood in that hallway in my wedding dress with 240 guests waiting on the other side of a set of double doors, and I made a decision I have never once regretted. Before I tell you what happened, drop your city and your local time in the comments. I like knowing who's listening. And if this story is worth it to you, stay until the end, because what happened to that family afterward is the part nobody expects. Let me take you back to the morning of September 21st. The last morning I ever woke up as Nathaniel Griggs's fiancé. I grew up in Belhaven, Ohio, a town of about 6,000 people where everybody's mail carrier knows their dog's name and the diner on Main Street still gives free pie on your birthday. My father, Walter Hart, spent 31 years as a heavy equipment mechanic at the county rail yard. He came home every night with grease under his fingernails that never fully came out. No matter how hard he scrubbed, my mother, Dolores, worked the front desk at Belhaven General for 26 years, checking in strangers on the worst days of their lives with the same steady kindness every single time. We didn't have much. My bedroom shared a wall with the water heater, and my winter coat in 9th grade came from my cousin 2 sizes too big. But dinner was always hot. The porch light was always on. And I never once doubted that I was loved. I put myself through nursing school on loans and a scholarship. And by 27, I was debt-free and working as a labor and delivery nurse at the regional hospital. I built that life, but the foundation under it, that was Walter and Dolores Hart. I met Nathaniel Griggs at a hospital fundraiser 18 months before the wedding. His family owned Griggs & Associates, a commercial real estate firm with its name on half the office parks in the county. Nathaniel managed acquisitions. His mother, Regina, sat on the board of 3 charities and chaired the Belhaven Symphony Gala every spring. Regina's world was cream-colored suits and pearl earrings the size of dimes. The first time we met, she shook my hand, looked me over once, and said, "A hospital nurse. How practical." Then she mentioned, almost gently, that Nathaniel used to date a cardiologist's daughter. I told myself that was just how people like that made conversation. I was already in love. And love has a way of talking you out of the things you should be running from. Nathaniel proposed at his family's country club, candles and a string trio. Regina seated 3 tables away, coincidence. He called it. I said yes anyway. Because the ring wasn't from Regina. It was from the man who drove 40 minutes with soup when I had the flu, who told me my parents were the best people he'd ever met. Then the wedding planning started, and the man I thought I knew began to blur at the edges. Regina chose the venue, the Griggs Country Club, not the little Methodist church on Willow Street where my parents were married. She chose the planner. She chose the menu. And when my mother offered to bring her homemade cornbread as a starter, Regina tilted her head and said, "That's sweet, Dolores. But this is a plated dinner, not a potluck." My mother laughed it off in front of everyone. I saw her hands tighten in her lap. Every time I pushed back, Nathaniel had the same answer. "Let Mom have this one." After the wedding, it's just us. I told myself I was choosing my battles, losing the small ones now to win the marriage later. I didn't understand yet that the small battles weren't small, they were rehearsals. And I kept giving ground. September 1st, 6 a.m. I woke up in my childhood bedroom Sunlight coming through curtains my mother sewed when I was 11. My dress hung on the closet door ivory. T-length, bought with my own paycheck. This was the one thing Regina hadn't touched. But then I was at the country club, and the place looked like something out of a bridal magazine. White peonies, gold-rimmed chargers, 300 candles, a string ensemble warming up in the garden. 240 guests were expected, half from the Griggs side, half from mine. My side wore department store dresses and didn't know what a charger plate was. I noticed early that the Griggs guests were seated up front, center, close to the dance floor, and my people were scattered toward the back. I told myself it was just numbers. After the ceremony, while everyone filtered onto the terrace for cocktail hour, I slipped into the reception hall to double-check the setup habit. From years of triple-checking charts before a shift change, 22 round tables, all draped in white and gold. Table 1 was set for 10, both sets of parents. Nathaniel's grandmother, my Aunt Josephine. I picked up the first place card. A Griggs cousin, then another 9 Griggs family members and associates. No hearts. I checked table after table until I found them at table 16, wedged against the back wall, 10 feet from the swinging kitchen door. I could hear pans clanging on the other side of it. The chairs weren't the polished wood from the rest of the room, they were folding chairs. The backup kind, and a bus cart stacked with dirty water glasses sat 2 feet away. Walter Hart, Dolores Hart, gold ink on cream cardstock, sitting next to a folding table by a swinging door. I found the coordinator near the bar. Who changed the seating chart? Mrs. Griggs adjusted it this morning. She told me the bride approved. I never approved anything. I stood in that hall and did the only thing I know how to do when something is going wrong fast. I triaged. If I said nothing, my father would sit at that folding table, straighten the one good tie he owned, and tell me it was fine. My mother would fold her napkin in her lap and pretend she couldn't hear the dish pit 6 feet from her head. And Regina would know, for the rest of our lives, exactly how far she could push. I went to find Nathaniel. I thought he'd be furious on my behalf. I was wrong. He was adjusting his cufflinks in the mirror, a gift from Regina, when I asked him who moved my parents. Mom rearranged some things. It's not a big deal. They don't have seats near the front. Nathaniel, they're next to the kitchen. He sighed, the way people sigh when they've decided you're the problem. We have 240 guests out there. Can we not do this right now? Then, after they've already sat there for 3 hours, the Whitfields and the Coopers are at table 1. They're important business relationships. He caught himself too late. More important than my parents. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. He put a hand on my arm. Gentle, rehearsed. You're stressed. It's your wedding day. I'll talk to Mom tomorrow. Tomorrow, it was always tomorrow. I searched his face for surprise, for guilt, for anything. There was nothing. He'd known since morning. He'd known, and he'd still stood in front of a mirror fixing his cufflinks. I walked out without another word, and on my way back through the corridor, I stopped at the welcome table. I picked up one of the printed programs, page 2 times, with love and gratitude to our families. 4 lines. All Griggs. My parents, the ones I'd listed first in the version I'd approved 3 weeks earlier, were gone. Not moved. Erased. I found my best friend, Priya, in the bridal suite. I told her everything in under a minute. She didn't gasp. Didn't say times I told you so, times she'd warned me gently. Once. Months ago. And never again. She just closed her lipstick and said, "What do you need from me? Stay close. I'm right here." I went back toward the groom's suite to try one more time. The door was cracked open 3 or 4 inches, enough to hear Regina's voice. Low and controlled, the way she sounded when she was most dangerous. "Nathaniel, look at her father's suit. It's 10 years old. And her mother, did she sew that dress herself? They look like they don't belong here. Our guests will notice." I know, Mom, but the Whitfields are right there. These are the people who matter, not a mechanic and a receptionist. You're right. It's more appropriate where they are. A pause. Then, quieter. "You should have listened to me from the start. She doesn't belong here." I pressed my hand flat against the wall. My father, 31 years under train cars. 2 blown knees. 1 good suit he saved 4 months to buy a mechanic. My mother, who has sat with more frightened strangers than anyone I know, a receptionist. Said like slurs. I pushed the door open. Regina's face froze for half a second before rearranging into her hospitality smile. "Everly, sweetheart, you look stunning." I heard everything. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. Heard that my father looks poor, that my mother sewed her own dress, that they don't belong at the front table. What part did I misunderstand? Regina stepped forward. Hands clasped like she was chairing a meeting. "This is just a seating arrangement. We're trying to... You called my father a mechanic like it was an insult. And I looked at Nathaniel, agreed with her. You're emotional right now." He said, "It's your wedding day. Let's take a breath. I am breathing. I've never been clearer." He didn't follow me out. That was the last answer I needed. Priya was waiting exactly where I'd left her. I told her everything again. Word for word. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "I'm thinking I can't sign my name to this." She nodded. No drama. The same focused look. She gets prepping for a deposition. She's a paralegal. And this would matter in about 10 minutes. "Then here's what you need to know. The ceremony is done, but the marriage license, you haven't signed it. Diane has it in her folio. The plan was to sign it during the toasts. Remember, Constance insisted on making it a moment in front of everyone. I remembered. So legally, right now, you are not married. No signature. No filing. No marriage. If you walk away before that pen touches paper, there's no annulment. No divorce. Nothing to undo. How long do I have? As long as you don't sign, but once you sit down, once the toasts start, the pressure to sign in front of 240 people is going to be enormous. I know whatever you decide. I'm standing next to you. Table 16, I found my parents exactly where I expected. My father sat upright, hands flat on his knees, tie straight, shoes shined with drugstore polish. My mother was tucking a loose thread back into the lace she'd sewn onto her own dress 3 weekends running. The kitchen door swung open behind them with a bang of heat and clattering plates. My mother flinched. My father didn't move. "You look beautiful," he said when he saw me. "Dad, I'm so sorry about... I can sit anywhere. Sweetheart, this is your day." I thought about the $11,000 my parents had saved over 14 years to help cover this wedding. It paid the catering deposit, every plate, every glass of wine on every table in that room. Without it, There was no dinner. And Regina had put the people who paid for the food next to the trash bins. Stay here. I said, I'll be right back. The doors opened. Guests filed in. The Griggs side settled up front with the ease of people who always sit up front. My side shuffled toward the back, checking place cards, pulling out folding chairs that didn't match anything else in the room. The first course came out, a butternut squash soup my parents had paid for, plated with microgreens. Regina walked past table 16 on her way to the bar, close enough that I heard her say to her friend, just loud enough to carry, bless her heart, someone should have bought her mother a proper dress. But I suppose you have to know your place. My mother's hands went still on the tablecloth. My father reached under it and took her hand. He didn't say anything. He just held it. I have worked labor and delivery for 6 years. I have held mothers through the worst moments of their lives. Nothing gutted me the way watching my father absorb that woman's contempt in silence did. I crossed the room, pulled Nathaniel behind a column. Your mother just humiliated mine in front of guests. Go tell her to apologize. Right now. He looked across the room at his mother laughing at the bar. Then back at me. I'm not making a scene. Everly, 240 people are watching. Then whisper it. I don't care how, just do it. He straightened his jacket. Your parents will be fine. They're tough people. Let's just get through tonight. He walked back to table 1 and sat down. That was it. That was the whole answer. I went to table 16 and sat down, not at the sweetheart table, not next to my husband-to-be. My mother looked at me, confused. Honey, you should be up front. My family's here, so I'm here. My father studied my face the way he'd studied it for 31 years. Everly, don't do anything on our account. I'm not doing this for you. Dad, I'm doing it for me. I looked across the room. Priya was already watching. I nodded once. She stood up. I took a breath, pushed back my chair, and walked 60 feet to the stage. My heels were the only sound in the room by the time I reached it. The MC, mid-joke about Nathaniel's fraternity days, faltered and handed me the microphone without a fight. Thank you all for being here today. I said, my voice came through clean. 6 years of calling codes in a delivery room teaches you how to stay level when everything else is falling apart. I owe you the truth about what's happening in this room. Most of you know me as Nathaniel's fiancé. But before that, and after tonight, I am Walter and Dolores Hart's daughter. I pointed to the back. My parents are sitting at table 16. I'd like everyone to look. 240 heads turned. I watched the room's face change confusion. Then recognition. Then the slow tightening of 240 jaws as people understood exactly what they were looking at. A folding table wedged between a bus cart and a swinging kitchen door. This morning, that was table 1. The head table, the one I approved 3 weeks ago, sometime between the ceremony and cocktail hour, someone reprinted every place card in this room and moved my parents to the back, next to the trash. That person was Regina Griggs. Every head at table 1 turned toward her. She didn't move. Her knuckles went white around her champagne flute. When I confronted my fiancé about it and told him what I heard his mother say, he told me, these are his exact words, that my parents were fine where they were and that his business associates were more important. A man at table 1, one of the Whitfields, quietly pushed his chair back a few inches. My father spent 31 years as a mechanic at the rail yard. He has 2 blown knees and 1 good suit he saved 4 months to buy. My mother has spent 26 years at the front desk of Belhaven General, sitting with strangers on the worst day of their lives. My parents put $11,000 toward this wedding. Every plate you're eating tonight, they paid for it. I looked at Regina, and you put them next to the garbage. The room made a sound like a held breath finally let go. Someone at table 3 gasped. Regina's friend set down her glass and put 6 inches of distance between herself and a woman she'd been laughing with a minute earlier. I came here to start a marriage built on respect. I can't sign my name to one where my family is an embarrassment. I reached up and unpinned my veil, folded it, and set it on the edge of the stage. To my family and friends from Belhaven, thank you for driving here. We're going home. I set the microphone down gently, the way you set down a tool when the job is finished. And I walked to the back of the room. Nobody talked over the sound of my heels this time. My father stood when I reached him. My mother was already crying. Quiet tears, the kind she always tries to hide. I hugged them both between the folding chairs and the kitchen door. Priya appeared with my coat and a car already called. We walked out together, past 240 silent faces, past a string quartet that had simply stopped playing. Behind us, I heard Regina's voice crack. She's lost her mind. And Nathaniel calling my name. I didn't stop. I sat at my parents' kitchen table, the same one I'd done homework on since 3rd grade. Laminate top, chip in the corner. My mother made coffee. My father said nothing, which has always been his way of saying everything. Priya called at 915. The license was never signed, never witnessed, never filed. You were never legally married. No annulment. No divorce. You're clean. Something in my chest loosened. Also, 17 missed calls from Nathaniel, 4 from Regina. Block them. Already did. I threw up at 7 in the morning. Then again at noon. I bought a test at the pharmacy where the same pharmacist had known me since I was 6. She rang it up without a word. 2 pink lines on the bathroom floor of my childhood home. I sat on the tile and cried, not from joy, not yet, but because my life had just gotten exponentially more complicated, and the father of this child was a man I'd walked away from in front of 240 people. My mother found me 20 minutes later, saw the test, and sat down on the cold tile next to me without a single question. You're not alone, she said. You never have been. I told Nathaniel by email 3 sentences, reviewed by Priya before I hit send times I'm pregnant. I'm keeping the baby. If you want parental rights, all communication goes through counsel. His replies came in waves, pleading, then threatening, then pleading again. Regina got our home number from somewhere and called it directly. My father answered, Mr. Hart, I trust you understand this child is a Griggs. We have excellent attorneys. My daughter has a lawyer. My father said, talk to her. Then he hung up and went back to his coffee. I never posted anything online. I never called a single guest. I didn't have to. 240 people watched Regina Griggs seat a mechanic and a receptionist next to the trash. And 240 people went home and talked about it. A business partner pulled out of a development deal with the Griggs firm the following Monday, citing concerns about how they treat people close to them. The symphony board quietly asked Regina to step back and focus on family before that spring's gala. Consequences don't always come with an audience. Sometimes they come as a phone call on a Tuesday. A month after the wedding, Nathaniel showed up at my parents' house. I watched from the upstairs window as my father filled the doorway and told him, you should have stood up for her family. If you want to be part of this child's life. My daughter's attorney has the paperwork. That's the only road there is. You'll regret this. Nathaniel said. My father looked at him for a long moment. I'm not keeping anyone out. So I'm keeping the door. Then he stepped back and closed it. Not a slam. A click. 5 months later, I found a 1-bedroom apartment 3 blocks from my parents. My mother sewed curtains for every window before I'd even fully moved in. My father spent a Saturday building a bookshelf out of reclaimed barnwood for the nursery. Our daughter, Josephine Hart, named for the aunt who never once made me feel small, was born on a Thursday morning. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, with a scream that could wake the whole maternity ward. My father held her second after me and stood at the window with the morning light on both of them for a long, quiet minute. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. No return address. Heavy stationery. Nathaniel's father, Arthur, Everly, I owe you an apology. Not for what my wife and son did, but for what I didn't do. I was in that room. I heard the conversation and said nothing. That silence is mine to carry. I'm not asking for access to my granddaughter, but if a day ever comes when you'd allow it, I'd be grateful. I folded it and put it in a drawer. I didn't answer that month. Maybe I never will. I've learned to let time answer instead of hope. 1 year later, Josephine is 13 months old. She has my eyes and someone else's jaw and a laugh like a hiccup through a tiny speaker. I'm back at the hospital full-time, recently promoted to charge nurse. The custody arrangement went through family court quietly. Nathaniel gets 2 weekends a month. On time, every time. Regina isn't part of it. Not because I banned her, but because I set one condition: any visit with extended family requires my presence. She's called it an insult. I call it a boundary. She hasn't met her granddaughter yet. Not because the door is locked, but because she won't walk through it on anyone's terms but her own. Every Sunday, we still eat at the same laminate table with the chip in the corner. No place cards. No charger plates. My mother's cornbread, the one Regina wouldn't allow, is always on the table. Priya comes most weeks with her fiancé. My charge nurse mentor brings a pie every time and swears it's just because she bakes too much. Nobody believes her. There's no string quartet. No $20,000 venue. But everyone at that table chose to be there. And nobody, not once, sits next to the trash. That's my table 1 now. I'm not telling you this to teach you a lesson. Everyone's breaking point looks different. And I don't know what your table 16 looks like. But if you're sitting at one right now, always near the door, always told to be grateful for the chair instead of asking why it's next to the garbage, I want you to know you can stand up. You don't need a microphone. You don't need 240 witnesses. You just need to know, somewhere past the guilt and the doubt, that the people who raised you deserve better than a folding chair by the kitchen door. And if the person you love agrees with someone who calls your family less than, that person didn't choose you. They chose comfort. That's not love. That's a seating chart. My name is Everly Hart. I'm 32 now. I'm a nurse, a mother, and Walter and Dolores Hart's daughter. My daughter has never once sat at a table where she didn't belong. And I have never been prouder of where I come from. If you've ever had to stand up for your family, type table 1 in the comments. And if this one hit close to home, tell me, would you have answered that letter? I'm still figuring that out myself. Thanks for staying until the end.